So just in the last 24 hours, we've had a ton of new developments when it comes to some upcoming Nintendo Switch titles that I want to share with you guys today, some of which have to do with WarioWare Get It Together, as we are now seeing the review scores go live for this game, and it will be releasing this Friday. Then we also have to talk about some major gameplay trailers for upcoming Switch games that just dropped today, and the big talking point for today's video is that we recently had a podcast go live that interviewed some of the lead designers at Retro Studios, and there's some good news to report upon when it comes to Metroid Prime 4. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. Now, as I mentioned, guys, we are covering a few different stories today. The first of which I want to tackle is an update around WarioWare Get It Together, as we know that the release of this is September 10th, which is this upcoming Friday, so it is right around the corner, and we are now starting to see the embargoes lifted on review scores for this game. So you have it now live on Metacritic with a total of like 40 different reviews at the time of filming this video, with an overall score of 76, which is obviously, you know, not the best score ever, but it's also not a bad one either. And, you know, there was quite a few different conflicting reviews here that I read through, and, you know, a lot of them do say it's just going to be a fun, family-friendly party title on your Nintendo Switch like you would expect it to be. And then I actually did read through VGC's report and review, as, you know, I typically go to them for a lot of my news sources, and they did have some more kind of critiquing things to say, such as that the characters tend to be unbalanced, as obviously, you know, Nintendo is kind of changing up the formula with, instead of just all of these different micro games, not only do you have a bunch of micro games, but you also have different characters that you can replay those same micro games with and try to beat them differently depending on which character you have. And VGC essentially called out that they felt like the characters were unbalanced and they weren't all very, you know, user-friendly when it comes to how you complete each individual game. So this is one that I'm still going to plan on picking up. I definitely don't have the highest expectations for it, but I do think it's going to be a fun game to break out when you have friends over and you want to play just a fun, relaxing party game on the Nintendo Switch. And it does sound like the single, like if you're playing this for the single player story experience, VGC did say that roughly it takes about 2 hours to get through the story experience by yourself, but that there's a ton of replay value. And I'm assuming that means you need to go back through the story with a bunch of different characters and do things to 100% it. So it'll obviously be longer if you're trying to go for the completionist route, but if you just want to get from the start to the end of the game, it's only going to be about 2 hours on a single player experience. So this will definitely be one that I think will be more enjoyable when you have friends over and you experience the multiplayer setup. But let me know in the comments down below if you guys have any interest for WarioWare Get It Together, as this is going to be a $50 release as opposed to a full price $60 title. So let me know if you'll be picking it up later on this week, or if you may wait for it to go on sale in the future. Now, the next game we're talking about is Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, and that is because IGN got some hands-on footage with this game, and I can tell you guys it looks pretty good. I mean, it's definitely trying to be a Smash Bros clone. I wouldn't expect it to be much else other than that, and it is hard to tell how the game actually is going to feel until you're going through and playing it yourself. But if you want a Smash clone with some Nickelodeon characters, I do think that this could be a good pickup for a lot of people. Now, there is one big thing that came out of this footage that a lot of people noticed and are disappointed in, and myself included, and that's the fact that these Nickelodeon characters that are so iconic and classic do not have any voiceover in the game whatsoever. So you're not going to hear SpongeBob's voice, you're not going to hear any of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I do think that's a big miss here, you know. But it does appear to be like, it's not like some kind of AAA Smash level game. It is definitely going to deliver a lot of fun multiplayer action from the looks of it, but I wouldn't expect this to have the same level of fidelity of something like a Smash Bros would, because, you know, we don't have Sakurai at the helm of this Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. But I do think that when it comes to games like a Smash clone, that this has done a very good job at it, and they have changed up some of the gameplay mechanics from Smash. It's not like one-to-one accurate. Like, you will definitely have different styles of play and different types of strategies that you can use in this game that you can't in Smash, such as you can grab enemies right out of the air as they're falling. Apparently there's also some kind of balance mechanic where if you're balancing on a ledge and somebody hits you off that ledge, the hit will actually connect different based off of how your stance is on the ledge. And then you also have a couple things like reflecting projectiles, and you can go back and forth, and apparently each time you reflect them, it does get stronger, and it does look like you can grab projectiles out of the air as well. So it'll be interesting to actually pick up and play this game when it does release. I do think I will definitely check this one out, as, you know, I have a ton of fun with Smash Bros style games, especially when I'm playing them with friends, and it'll be cool to do some of that style of gameplay with the classic Nickelodeon characters that I do have a lot of nostalgia for, because I grew up in that era. So I am looking forward to this one. I do think that the gameplay that they showed off is solid overall, but I will definitely be waiting to actually get my hands on it so I can see what it really plays like when you're the one controlling the characters, because it's still hard to kind of picture that when we're just watching the gameplay footage that's been released so far. But let me know if you guys have any interest in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl and if you're planning on picking it up at the release in the comments down below. Now, the next game we're talking about that got some brand new footage today, released straight from Nintendo, is Shin Megami Tensei 5. And I will tell you guys, as somebody who is brand new to this series, I've played none of the previous installments. This game looks pretty freaking fantastic. I mean, when it comes to turn-based style JRPGs, this looks like it's going to have a lot to offer. It looks like the story elements are going to go really deep. I'm excited to see what the lore has to offer. This game does release on November 12th, and this new gameplay trailer just kind of highlights, you know, how fast action, fast-paced the combat looks. And I do think that the art style and everything that they have shown us so far, especially as someone who is not familiar with the series, I think it's doing a good job of getting my hype levels up there. This game will come out on November 12th, so it will be one that'll be on my radar that I'll be watching at release, and I'll definitely look at review scores and things like that, and some people who are more in the know with traditional JRPGs and what they think about it versus me. But you know what? This might be a good one to give a shot. Hopefully there's no kind of major no more hero scenarios going on where the graphics are chugging along or we have any of that, and we won't really know that until we get closer to this game's release. But it does appear that everything that they've shown us so far is looking good for Shin Megami Tensei 5, and I would love to hear from you guys, especially if you're more of a hardcore fan of the series, what this game means to you, and you know, kind of what, if you're planning on picking it up right at release, and what you think of this new gameplay trailer that we saw from Nintendo today. Now from there, we get to talk about some exciting news when it comes to the Metroid franchise, which, if you guys do not know, is up there probably on my top 3 list of favorite franchises of all time, and I cannot wait for any kind of piece of information that we get around Prime 4. And it does appear that on recent podcasts that just went live, that the head lead designer for Retro Studios was asked a lot of questions around development of Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3, even Prime Trilogy on the Switch, and then he was even asked about Metroid Prime 4 at the end of the interview. So I kind of want to share, you know, what he said and really highlight some of the culture changes that Nintendo actually did by acquiring Retro Studios, and why this is shaping up to be a great work environment for Metroid Prime 4. And I think happy developers and developers that feel like they're cared for and they're invested in their work, and the project delivers ultimately a fantastic gameplay experience. So I wanted to hop over to Nintendo Life real quick, where they had a few different notable discussion points from the podcast overall, and then I will share my opinions on what I think this means for the future of the Metroid franchise, as obviously we're seeing a ton of new push for this classic Nintendo series with the build up to Dread, as we've seen Nintendo focus on recently. But let's first quickly hop over to Nintendo Life to read through the article. So the article starts off here reading, Nintendo changed the culture at Retro Studios following Metroid Prime crunch. And Mike Weekend was quoted saying the following when asked about the original development of the first Prime games. After Metroid Prime 1, we rarely crunched. We had a change of leadership between 1 and 2. We had some crunch in 2, but it wasn't the 9-month death march that we had at the end of Prime 1. That was the worst. I had 2 times where I was there 48 hours straight with 1 hour of sleep and then a couple 36-hour days. For the last 9 months, we were there pretty much 24/7. At the end of that time, everyone was ready to quit. We were like, we're done. I had 2 job offers from 2 different companies, and to their credit, Nintendo realized what was going on and took over the company, bought it out. They put Michael Kilbaugh in charge. He's a sweetheart, real good. He was the head of Nintendo's QA department. He said, guys, give me a few weeks to turn it around, and he did. He restored faith in leadership and in the company. I loved working for Nintendo. Michael Kilbaugh is still the president and CEO of Retro Studios and had worked at Nintendo for over 14 years at the time of his appointment. Later in the interview, we can briefly touch on his plans to play Metroid Prime 4, the long-delayed project that was initially being made elsewhere before Nintendo reversed course and gave it to Retro Studios. He has confidence that the current team will deliver. And he's quoted here saying, and Metroid 4 will be great. A lot of the core designers on the team are guys who were there when I was. They understand what a Metroid game is. So a couple things that stand out to me about that article is, one, obviously it is great news to hear that, you know, Nintendo stepped in and did the right thing when the original Retro Studio before Nintendo took over was under different leadership and was obviously in an unhealthy work balance. And, you know, Metroid Prime 1 was an incredible game, but it was just simply something that they were clearly ready to quit and give up before they could go forward on any future development projects without new leadership. And it's good and reassuring for me as a hardcore Metroid fan to see the same leadership that made them feel great back in the day still in control. And then the big comment that got me super hyped is the simple fact that it sounds like the same team that was around when the original Prime games were developed are still the guys in charge right now, and I think that that just means great things for Metroid Prime 4 when it comes out. As if you guys haven't played through the original Prime games, I would highly recommend it. I still personally believe that we will get Prime Trilogy announced on the Switch before Prime 4's release, as it just only makes sense for Nintendo to do that for the fan base, because why would you start off such a major installment in the series such as Prime 4 without exposing any of the fan base that is now on the Switch with its 89+ million units strong that it has sold to the original 1, 2, and 3 that made all those fans of the series to begin with. So I'm still holding out hope that it's maybe something as soon as a February Nintendo Direct, we get some kind of Metroid Prime 4 trailer or just a look at the world, and then hopefully there's an announcement in there somewhere for Prime Trilogy. And you know, for me, I cannot wait to replay through Prime 1 on the Switch. I mean, Prime 1 specifically stands out to me as the most nostalgic Prime game, but I will be very excited to play through Echoes and Corruption as well. But it definitely got me hyped seeing Metroid and the Retro Studios kind of talked about in the news, and the fact that, you know, hopefully work environment sounds good, everything sounds good at the Retro base, and so hopefully we get some good news and gameplay trailers sooner rather than later when it comes to Metroid Prime 4. But at this point in the video, guys, I really want to know all your thoughts and opinions on everything we talked about today. Are you hyped for any of the games that we talked about? And are you planning on getting WarioWare Get It Together this Friday? Or are you just going to wait and see how it does and maybe get it on sale later on? And then the big thing I want to hear from you guys on is, how hyped are you for Metroid Prime 4? Are you going to be getting Dread when it releases? And then, you know, are you going to try to play through Metroid Prime 1 through 3 before Metroid Prime 4 release, especially if we do see something like the Metroid Prime Trilogy re-released on the Switch? And then also, bonus question, make sure you let me know which Metroid Prime game is your favorite. As I mentioned, Metroid Prime 1 definitely holds the most nostalgia for me, but I do love all of them. And I would love to hear from you guys which one stands out to you as your favorite so far, if you have had a chance to play through them. Thanks so much for watching the video today, everyone. I do truly appreciate you all sticking around until the end. I do at this point in the video want to invite you all one more time to join Sunbro Nation if you haven't done so already. Do so by subscribing below, hit the like button on your way out if you enjoyed it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. That's going to do it for me, guys. I hope you all have a great day. Sunbro Nation, out.